I don't understand why Indian media continues to say China border, or Sino-Indian border, that we must start to stand up against China. This film tells the story of Tibet. This film tells the story of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, how he had to escape his own country and come to India. And for the past 64 years, he's been living in India as a refugee. China's ambition is not a friendly relationship with India. China's ambition is to topple the United States and rule the world. Keeping its borders, giving every protection possible, and standing up to China will firstly help India to be more protected and avoid any questions from China on India's sovereignty. So India thought that let Tibet go, we will be friends with China. That I think was a wrong footing, right? So firstly, thank you very much coming in such a short notice. What I'm doing at an individual level, though I'm one person, but what I'm doing is for India and for Tibet, and therefore this press conference is really important. What I'm going to speak here today is about the Himalayan regions of India and its relationship with Tibet. And for the past 66 days up until today, the travels I've been doing all across the Himalayas from Ladakh up to Arunachal are essential in rekindling the relationship between Tibet and the 5 Indian states in the Himalayas. I've been on a long speaking tour. I've started from Ladakh, particularly its capital Leh, from 17th August this year, and since then I've been traveling every single day. I traveled in different places in Ladakh. I went to Nubra, Kargil, Zanskar, Nyoma, and of course Leh and Choklamsar. Then from there I went to Kelong in Garsha Valley, which is Lahore, and then Spiti, then so many different villages and towns in Kinnaur, and further down then I came towards UtterKhand. I traveled in Garhwal Valley and also Kumaon regions, but because I didn't want to cause any trouble in Nepal, I avoided that and came down to UP and Bihar. I traveled through Lucknow, Banares, Patna and Siliguri, and I arrived here late last night, and I'm going to be now traveling through different places in Sikkim, and from here I will go to Kalimpong, Darjeeling, Mirik, Sonada, Karsiong, and back to Sikkim, Siliguri. And my last leg of this Himalayan journey I will start from Guwahati, Itanagar, different places in Arunachal Pradesh. Now this is such a long travel that anybody has ever done, and on one stretch. It's an ambitious one. It's an important one. It's ambitious because this is one man traveling through all these places to rekindle the traditional, cultural, and also political relationship between the Indian Himalayan states and Tibet. I continue to say Tibet and refuse to say what usually the Indian media say, China border. I avoid it because I belong to the Tibetan family, and traditionally Gangtok, Sikkim, has always had a very beautiful, strong ties with Tibet, not with China. China never had any borders in these areas. And just above from here, MG Road, and from there, the road towards Natula, what is it? It's Tibet Road. So there's no sign of China here at all. So therefore, I don't understand why Indian media continues to say China border, or Sino-Indian border. Because we have IDBP, Indo-Tibetan Border Police. And when we have such important infrastructures, such an important institution within India, IDBP, then why does the media continue to say, Sino-Indian border? Now, it may sound idealistic in rekindling and talking about Tibet, but I would like to say the present and temporary trade interest is nothing compared to the long-term interest of India, the republic of this country. India never had any borders with China at all in the past. And traveling through the Himalayas from Ladakh up until today, I haven't met a single person who said that there was any border, Chinese border on the border, in the Himalayas. I've met with old people who traveled to Tibet when Tibet was free and independent. There are still many people who remember that they used to go to Tibet. उनका शादी होते थे, उनकी व्यापार होते थे, और उनकी आदि परिवार अभी भी तिब्बत में है, अभी भी है. So that kind of real evidence of real life stories people tell me. And also all across, I've seen monasteries, I've seen villages, I've seen trade towns all across the Himalayas. So through these, what I'm doing at the moment is, wherever I travel, I've been screening a film called Escape of the Dalai Lama from Tibet. This film tells the story of Tibet. This film tells the story of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, how he had to escape his own country and come to India. And for the past 64 years, he's been living in India as a refugee. This film was first made in 2015, and it was made by Rangraids Films, a film company based in Bombay. And it was made for a TV channel called Epic, and it was broadcast in the year 2017. But because many of the people in the Himalayas, they've never seen this, so therefore I am doing a film travel. I've been taking this film with me every single day and showing it in so many different places. I travel with me a screen, a projector, a laptop, and seeking local logistics and support. I've been screening this film in so many villages and towns and cities and monasteries, and especially remote regions like the nomadic regions in Spiti, in Kinnaur, and also, for example, in UtterKhand, I went to Dharamshala. And Dharamshala is a very interesting and strategic place. It's a small town in Pithoragarh district, and to the east lies the Kali Nadi, and there's a bridge over it. When you cross the bridge, you come to Nepal. And in Nepal, they have created Dharamshala as a separate district. And there, in Dharamshala, we screened this film. And later, this film was shown on the local cable TV network. So people on the other side, the Nepalese citizens, they were also able to see it. And something like this had never happened before. So rekindling this relationship, and in that small town, Dharamshala, there are many people who came down from the hills. Just like here, for example, Gangtok is one place where there are people from the remote regions who are up in the mountains. So they have a base here. Like that. So there are people who traditionally were mixed, local population and also Tibetans. And Sikkim is not not in that way very different. Sikkim always had, of course, its own ethnic population who had always lived here, but at the same time used to have that kind of ties with people from Tibet. And through Natula, Tibet Road, Gangtok, down to Kalimpong, Darjeeling, all the way to Siliguri, and connecting right to Calcutta used to be the trade link road between Tibet, India, and Tibet used to send wool through this road, through Calcutta, all the way to the UK. That was our traditional relationship. So I got different kind of responses from different regions in all these Himalayan areas. When we screened this film in Ladakh, people in Ladakh, they were saying that for them, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is like their God. He's their guru. They said, but when we never knew that His Holiness the Dalai Lama had to undergo such difficulty in his such young age, when he was just 24, he had to leave his own country, and the difficulties he faced through the journey as seen in the film, they were saying that they were ashamed to watch this, not knowing what their guru had to undergo. So this film is in that way revelatory for many people in the Himalayas. When we went through Spiti, Kinnaur, people over there, their responses were a little different. They were saying, of course, we understand the difficulties His Holiness and His Holiness and Tibet had to undergo, but because His Holiness is now in India, because of His grace, they were saying that the people in these valleys, both Sikkim, Spiti and also Kinnaur, they were saying their religion, culture, their language has been preserved because His Holiness's grace and His guidance. So they were saying they are so grateful to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So different kind of responses. And then, because I avoided Nepal, I passed through Lucknow, Banares, Patna. So the responses from UP and Bihar were very different. It's not a Tibetan response, not a Buddhist response. They were reminded of Lord Buddha and Gandhiji when we screened this film on His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So they were saying, ऐसा लग रहा है कि गौतम बुद्ध ने जो करुणा की शिक्षा दिया और जो अहिंसा की मार्ग पे जो महात्मा गांधी जी चले थे, वो आज परम पावन दलाई लामा जी उसी रास्ते पे हैं. So they were, in a way, they looked at His Holiness in a very different way. But I think, these were really interesting public responses to the film and the journey that I am leading. My first screening in this region was in Siliguri. In Salugara, I was able to screen this film in a monastery called Segu Monastery. And there were many people from in that area. So they were Nepalese or Tamang or Sherpa or Bengalis, and also local Indians. And of course, throughout this journey, I will be doing more such screenings. And I'm already excited that I'm coming to a very different place, different kind of responses, different languages here. So these are some of the observations. And after this, my last leg of the journey will be in Arunachal Pradesh. And I'm already excitedly waiting for that kind of journey. From Sikkim, I will go to Kalimpong, Darjeeling, Mirik, Sonada, Karcham, and finally finish this part in Siliguri. And because I'm also a writer, I write poetry and stories. Whenever possible, I try to do either a poetry reading session or conduct creative writing sessions for schools, students or maybe college students also. I've been able to do in some of the places, and hoping to do at least one here in Gangtok. I'm not new to this city. I've been here a number of times, and because I'm also a member of the Tibetan Youth Congress, we had one big conference here many years ago, and my friend Sonamla is standing behind all of you. He's always been there as a member of the Tibetan Youth Congress, and this press conference is also being put together by Tibetan Youth Congress, and my friend from TYC is here already with me. And this evening we are going to show this film that I've been talking about at Chogasum Hall on the Namnang Road this evening at 6 o'clock. So in conclusion, through media, my message to the people of Sikkim and people across this country is that we must start to stand up against China. China, however we try to appease them, which had been India's policy for a very long time. India thought that China is going to be our friend. They may make some investments in India. Nothing is going to happen. China's ambition is not a friendly relationship with India. China's ambition is to topple the United States and rule the world. And we should now be able to see this through the Galwan Valley massacre. It was a message to India, and because they were looking at India as someone who is creating an alliance with the United States. India will make her own political decisions with or without China's pleasure or displeasure. And as someone who is born in India, I would like to say that we must be strong, and appeasing China in any way does not help us. In fact, we may continue to be in that Hindi Chini bye bye illusion, and therefore we must continue to stand strong. When China recently censured our vice president's visit to Itanagar, I felt that was completely uncalled for from China's side, because in the month of July, when Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Kongpo region, Kongpo Nyingchi region in Tibet and also in Lhasa, he openly gave signs to India that he was preparing for a major expansion in the Tibet region. India did not make any criticism of that. And therefore what China did recently, criticizing our vice president's visit to Itanagar, was completely uncalled for. It's an act of bully, and India must stand up against that. And Arunachal Pradesh has and is and will always be a part of India. China has nothing to do with this. And we as Tibetans, we know how Arunachal Pradesh became a part of India after the McMahon Treaty of 1914. And India's claim over Arunachal Pradesh is based on that important historical document. And it has nothing to do with China at all. So therefore, we must stand up against the bully. I hugely respect the way, in a dignified manner, India has always, worked out its foreign policies. But when it comes to China, I would like to say that we have to be a little stronger. Thank you. So this is all I have to say. But if there is any questions, comments, then of course I'm happy to answer. At the moment, Rumtek Monastery, I'm going there tomorrow, and I'll go to Namchi, Manang, then Rabangla. These are the confirmed places. But of course, I'm a very small person. I don't have huge network of people. I depend on individual friends who would take me to places or connect to those kind of places. So I'm in the process of doing it, and I remain very flexible. I'm I can travel at any time, morning, night, whatever time, and be there, and also be able to screen these films in the border regions.
For how long you are here?
I am expecting to be in Sikkim for about a week's time, and within that I'll try to travel as much possible. Yes. I wouldn't like to think that that India's policy is in any way aimed for Tibet's freedom. I wouldn't like to think that way. But India keeping its borders, giving every protection possible, and standing up to China will firstly help India to be more protected and avoid any questions from China on India's sovereignty. And therefore, when India is protected, Tibet will naturally be in a better position. I think one of the mistakes India made was right in the beginning how India thought that let Tibet go under China, we are going to have a friendly relationship with China. So India thought that let Tibet go, we will be friends with China. That I think was a wrong footing, right to start with. Hindi Chini Baiba was such a wrong step for India. Because when your neighboring country loses its freedom, then it puts you on a defensive position. Then you have to defend yourself all the time, and that too against a country like China, who has an expansionist policy. जिस तरीके से प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी अक्सर कहते थे कि वो एक विस्तारवाद की नीति अपना रहे हैं और उस विस्तारवादी नीति को ना कोई भविष्य है, ना उनका अभी का वक्त में कोई ऐसा मतलब होगा. तो I think defending India's border positions, especially after traveling to all these border areas, I have realized that the people in the border regions have very little or no political awareness. And therefore I felt that this political situation that is prevailing across the Himalayas, I felt this film screening that I am taking to all these places has been proved useful to local people. At least they know that was the history behind the Himalayas. Because there are many youngsters who had not seen.
What is your expectations from the government of India?
Same, that India should be stronger in its positions against China, and if India does it, that will naturally help Tibet's position. Up until now, although we have Indo-Tibetan border police, India's position even today is this, that Tibet Autonomous Region is a part of People's Republic of China. So this is being India's long-term policy, and if there is a review of this policy, it will hugely help both India and also Tibet.
So, do you think the Tibetan government in the exile is also taking up the same issues in the international forum?
Tibetan government in exile has certain limitations because it is an exile government functioning within India. And also because when His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when heads of the Tibetan government in exile, when they travel to foreign countries, they have to be careful with many other places. I'm speaking as an individual, openly and frankly, and I would like to think that the future of Tibet is a free and independent country, and that will recreate Tibet as a safe buffer zone between India and China, and that is in the long-term interest of India, not the present situation where China has been ruling over Tibet for 70 years and now threatening India. India wouldn't like to be in this difficult position forever.
Do you think the Dalai Lama acceptance of Chinese incursion in the Tibet.
No, His Holiness Dalai Lama has never accepted Chinese incursions, invasions, or occupation. His Holiness has been saying that in the past, Tibet was a free and independent country. Now, his proposal for autonomy was based on his future vision for Tibet, where he said that in the future, if the Chinese government gives an agreeable, mutually acceptable, autonomous arrangement for Tibetan people within the 3 provinces of Tibet, His Holiness said, perhaps we can think about it. But he had never accepted Chinese occupation of Tibet.
Do you have also the communications plan with your counterparts in the Tibet?
Tibetan people inside Tibet is 6 million. And Tibetans outside Tibet is 150,000. So we are a very small minority. Majority of our people are still inside Tibet. They are the ones who are leading the freedom struggle. They are our inspiration, and we listen to them. And we have, as people across the Himalayas, we have our own unique communication of trust. And also we have the history which binds us together, and the common vision of a free and independent Tibet.
Speaking of communication, I think lately there has been some form of protest with regards to Beijing 2022, the Olympics. Right?
Yes.
Across the border
True.
also we've been seeing that.
Yes.
What is your take on the same? Are you also in protest with the same? Is this one of the forms of addressal that you're trying to make with regards to the events that's been unfolding lately?
Yeah, I support, ban 2020 Beijing. Ban 2022 Beijing is a campaign internationally coordinated, and it's not just Tibetans. There are a number of other peoples who are under Chinese occupation, like the Muslim people of East Turkestan, Southern Mongolia, Manchuria. Then Hong Kong and Taiwanese are also protesting against 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. That's mainly because such an internationally acclaimed, internationally respected events like that, when it continues to happen in Beijing, it seems they are completely ignorant and disrespectful to all the atrocities these peoples and countries are facing. Taiwan is facing almost a kind of a preeminent Chinese invasion. How can the world continues to have this such kind of Winter Olympics in China as if they don't know, as if they don't care? So therefore, protests against Beijing 2022 is happening, and it started from the United States, is going all across Europe. It may not even happen.
Just to add on
Yes.
I think the same kind of protest did happen in 2008 also.
Yes.
And the lines were almost similar that the Olympics should not happen. Why always target a sports event in China to make your voices heard?
This is not anti-China campaign. This is for human rights. This is against genocides that are happening in Tibet and East Turkestan. Now, situation has changed so much. 2008 was the time when there was a global economic meltdown. 2008 was when there was major economic dependency on China globally. We cannot think of one country who is not dependent. Today, in the recent 2 years, we have seen the trade war between the United States and China. In this span of time, we have also seen the rise of Quads. In this time, we have also seen creation of very AUKUS institution. So you see, China is facing isolation from different parts of the world. And it's not about China, the country. It's about Xi Jinping-led government who has been belligerently running a dictatorship in that country. And they have the ambition to rule the world while keeping their own people, the Chinese people, and the people of the occupied countries under control. And he thinks that he can continue to do what he's doing in China on the rest of the world. That is absolutely unacceptable.
just one last question. India has long been, a safe haven. Sikkim has also been part of the same, right? Your comments on, how do you read Dharamshala or maybe Arunachal and Sikkim in terms of safety for Tibetans living in these parts?
Well, Sikkim has always accepted Tibetan refugees, and I have many of my own friends living here, and also in Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh. These are really safe havens for Tibetan refugees. Unlike, for example, Nepal and Bhutan, where situation for Tibetans not very conducive. We have not been able to do our elections properly, for example. These are community level elections. So when we look at Arunachal Pradesh, of course there are around 10,000 Tibetans, and recently our Sikkim, the president of the Tibetan government in exile, had to cancel his trip there. And he's supposed to take care of all the 10,000 Tibetans who are living in Arunachal, and his cancelling his trip over there, I think it's just unfortunate that he couldn't go because he thought that his travel there may cause some discomfort to government of India, and I think it's a good gesture from his side. But I still think, we have to stand stronger against China. When India is saying this is our place, then in that area there shouldn't be any second thought about Indians traveling there or Tibetans traveling in that region. And I'm going there, definitely.